The last book that I wanted to show you as part of this special collection spotlight session is this one here. It's the most recent of the four books which I have got out for today. This was published in 1905 and it comes from the James Ward collection, from which I've taken many books for previous spotlight sessions. So this is the collection of the bibliophile James Ward, who donated all of his local history books to Bromley House Library in 1914, I believe. So this one, published 1905, as you can see from the cover, is called The Queen's Christmas Carol. And if I open it up, we can see that the Queen in question is Queen Alexandra, so the wife of Edward VII. This is a picture of her on her coronation day in 1902. And this book was published by the Daily Mail in 1905. And it is, as you can see from the title, an anthology of poems, stories, essays, drawings and music by British authors, artists and composers. And that's exactly what it is. It starts with copies of the signatures of all the contributors to the book. And in the various dedications and so on, it's made clear that this book is being published as part of a royal fund for the unemployed. So it says in here, published on behalf of the Queen's Fund for the Unemployed, and dedicated to her Her Majesty on behalf of the, because of her appeal on behalf of the poorest of her people. So this is quite an interesting notion, particularly in relation to Christmas. It's this notion. Because obviously this was before we had anything like the welfare state. So the first unemployment benefits in this country, national unemployment benefits, were brought in sometime after this. The National Insurance Act was 1911, brought in by Asquith's government, who were a Liberal government and who also brought in various other welfare acts. They were interested in providing welfare for the people. One may cynically say they were partly interested in that because of the growing interest and membership of the Labour Party at the time. But whatever their motivation politically, they did bring in a number of acts which started to move the country towards what would later become the welfare state. So they brought in the first unemployment benefit in 1911. Prior to that, people who had fallen on hard times were reliant on charitable organisations in order to get money to live. And this seems to be one of those. So the Queen's Fund for the Unemployed, set up by Alexandra or in Alexandra's name, was obviously a fundraising organisation in order to provide for people who no longer had a job. And this book includes contributions by a variety of different people, including some very famous names. So we have Alma Tadema, the artist, and composer Edward Elgar in there. Written pieces from authors including Thomas Hardy and, rather interestingly, Bram Stoker of Dracula fame. So I, of course, was quite interested to see what Bram Stoker had contributed. So Bram Stoker has contributed a poem which is actually rather twee. It's a religious poem about Mary and Martha. Totally the opposite of what one might expect from the author of Dracula, but quite appropriate and quite in keeping with the tone of this particular book. So there are songs in here. There are carols. Let me find one of the carols. This is carols including music. So there we are. Ring Out Wild Bells, with a score and with the lyrics also included. And there are, as I showed, there are poems, there are short written pieces of prose, and there are many illustrations in here. So many paintings and drawings of a variety of different subjects, including, for instance, this very pre-Raphaelite looking illustration by Frederick Shields, who was a member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And so this book is, this again, harking back to the first book that I got out as part of this session. This is a gift book. This is something that you would buy to give to people, and as well as being obviously a donation towards the charity that was being promoted by it. So this almost comes full circle. This is back to the tradition that the first book showed of very nicely produced books of short pieces, things you could just dip into, fireside books effectively, that would make good presents for Christmas. So this 1905, this is very much continuing the Victorian traditions from 50 or 60 years earlier, and makes rather a nice one, I think, to end on for this particular spotlight session. So thank you very much for watching. I hope everyone who's watching this has a very restful and healthy Christmas, and I will see you in the new year with some more sessions looking at various of the treasures from our collections.